Yes. So, good evening, dear participants. Welcoming you all for the second day. Since there's a slight delay from the resource person, and we are supposed to start the session by 6:30. But anyway, we will start the session now since we have to talk about the institutions as well as about the faculty development program. The resource person will join by 6:30. Okay. Yes. Now let me welcome Vasu sir to welcome the gathering, followed by IIDM introduction.
Sir, good evening, Bennett sir. Sir, I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible,
Sir,
sir.
you're audible, sir.
Okay. So once again, good evening to one and all. So on behalf of IIDM and Southfield College, Darjeeling, I am welcoming each and everyone for this wonderful second day event. And particularly, there are super panelists today and hosting the institutions, faculty members, researchers, academicians, postgraduate and doctorate scholars, technical team and social media team, and particularly our Vishal sir, who was not able to attend yesterday. So I welcome sir also today for our program, second day program. So thank you so much for this opportunity to welcome you all for our second day faculty development program. And regarding as Mr. Bennett sir said, there are a lot of information or sharing in the first day itself, and quite a lot of people are asked so much of questions yesterday, which was very wonderful and very useful because the participant must eagerly ask such a question to the panelists so that you can understand why this program is conducting for the people to clear their doubts, to clear each and everything. So all those things we can clear it in a 15 days program. I think such a wonderful program we are giving you for your capacity building, for your sharing your knowledges, all those things. So well, I welcome you all. And Bennett sir, have you received my slides, sir? Have you received my PPT by your mail? Bennett sir, I'm audible.
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Sir, have you received my PPT? Now, otherwise, I can go through to talk about IIDM. IIDM is created in Tamil Nadu in the year of 2018, but we are in the field of we are since in the field 2004 after tsunami. So everybody knows about tsunami that it gives huge impact, huge losses. Almost 3.5 lakh people being died across Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and India. So due to that uncertainty, even we lost a lot of things. Then after that, the government of India has started a DM disaster management act, a lot of policies, framework, all those things. So the same way, we are all worked in World Bank project. We called as a community-based disaster risk management. It is CBDRM. We call it as a CBDRM. So in that, we have started our career to work in the field, and we start to give a lot of training to the people. Particularly, we are multi-sectoral training institute, and we do lot of training since fundamental of disaster management when it was started, because DRR, disaster risk reduction, 2005 High Court, 1994 it was started, but after that it given a different name of DRR High Court framework 2005 to 2015, and the Sendai framework 2015 to 2030, and there was a sustainable development goals, and there is a honorable Prime Minister 10-point agenda and mission life. It's a love-friendly environment. After we have a COP29, which was happened in the last year, where all the more than nearly 200 countries people are joined together and discussing about how to protect our countries. against the green gases emissions and global warming, all those things. So climate finance, now recently they have introduced how to protect all those countries by giving finance to the countries. So those things and all, we are giving a special classes to the college students, faculty members, and all the sectors from top to grassroots level. So how the communication should be in three stages of disasters, and we are having background knowledge of all the disaster that we have lessons learned from the all the past disasters. What are the lessons we learned? Or even recently that Myanmar earthquake. A lot of people when they are living in the huts, multi-storage department, multi-storage houses, when this earthquake happened, the people start to jump on the water to protect themselves. But what was happened? All the electricity line was there in the water itself. So without knowing that, quite a lot of people jump in that, and we lost lot of lives and livestock also. So each and every disaster giving us a good lesson: what should do, what should not do, how to communicate, to whom to communicate, how to protect ourselves from all those things. So these are our main aim of Integrated Institute of Disaster Management, to giving classes on systematic approach training by standard operation procedures. So each and every training, we have a systematic approach, we have a standard operation. For that, we are in the field since 2018, giving our best training to the all the sectors. Now we extended our area operation up to Darjeeling with the Southfield College, where the students are learning very eagerly. Quite a lot of Chennai-based colleges. We have completed our. Actually, we have three level of trainings. We call it as a comprehensive disaster management, level 1, level 2, and level 3. So all those three level, when they are as per the UGC norms, as per the UGC credit, we are giving as best training, exposure trip, field assessment, and scenario-based exercise, mock drills, all these things in a classroom itself, in a scenario-based exercise, we are teaching to the people. The vision of the Integrated Institute of Disaster Management is to make India become a disaster resilient country. This is the ultimate aim of our institute. So each and every layman to understand the present scenario of the world, what is happening, what is the rising temperature, global warming ratio, what is the uh, ice are melting, glaciers are melting. What will be the impact if it is taking serious effect? What about the climate change action? What about this now? Uh, Seasonal changes, all unexpected even. Now this international panel committee for climate change giving us a red alert, giving us a alarming, giving us a warning. So everybody has to understand what is happened, what should do, what should not do. So what we are doing against all these green gases emission, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrosus, though how it is going beyond our control. So how we are going to reduce now this artificial intelligence also, government of India taking care now with many stakeholders. So how to reduce the heat energy, how to consume the electricity, how the technology we can protect more, what are the conventional energy we can use, how to generate, how to modify into that, recycle, reuse without producing quite a lot of things. So those things and all our vision of our institute, and the mission of our institute is to achieve the perspective goal of the nation, of the state, of the district. So we are helping all the districts to how to achieve their, how to mitigate the risk, how to reduce the risk, so how to achieve the objective of the perspective plan of each and every stage, and how to build the nation to become a resilience of the country, and how to collaborate and knowledge sharing with all other stakeholders, to bring the good platform where people can learn and easily can understand the situation, how they are cooperate with different faculties. And we are mainly focusing now empowering student into DRR. For that, we have taken this initiative. All the students should understand what are the disaster risk and what we have to do, all those things. And we are to enhance preparedness for each disaster and increasing the education and awareness of the each and every disaster. So that is our vision and vision and mission of our institute. And so far, we have trained 9,500 first responders in our Tamil Nadu, particularly especially in two districts, Viluppuram and Kadalur. And we have completed our Abda Mitra training. Abda Mitra, everybody knows that voluntary, how they are trained into according to vulnerability, according to the risk reduction model and all. And also we have trained all the line department people, police, fire officers, and various revenue officers or the rural development, on all the faculty members from top to grassroots level. And we are training the Nehru Yuvakendra student, nursing college student, engineering college student, community and youth people. All those are all our targeted people. We have a full month, full year schedule to train the people according to their wishes, according to the nature of vulnerability, all those things. Now we are making a lot of MOU with the other colleges, universities. Now we are our area operation up to Sri Lanka, plan to do with Indonesia, some other countries, with our beloved uh, this or we have quite to introduce all those things we are teaching to the people. And we have a very good trained faculties. We are all the faculties are retired officers from the government, and they are having a very good background of disaster, uh, climate change, seasonal change, and all the scenario, individual vulnerability based experts in our institute. And we are all trained from all the national institute, NIDM, NDMA, NARD, NDRF. So in Delhi, we were NDRF Ghaziabad, we have trained NIRD, New Delhi, and all those things we have trained. A lot of plan to do the things. And we are having a lot of research methodology in the future. We are going to study about what are the vulnerabilities and all those things. And nowadays we have started our research institutes also to study about all the vulnerabilities, how to reduce the vulnerable level into particular packets and all. So all the communication, how to do with the things, the principle of disaster management, classification of disaster, character of disaster, factors of disaster, causes of disaster, impact of disaster, what is the disaster cycle, and types of vulnerability, and 3 stages of disaster, pre, present, and post disasters. So all those things we are teaching to the people. So according to to understand roles and responsibility of each citizen of India, to their do's and don'ts. So that is the main focus of our institute, giving all the training to the entire sectors. Maybe future it will be an open platform for each and everyone who can join and get benefited in our institute also. So with that, I conclude my institute website ID is www.IIDM, Integrated Institute of Disaster Management.org.in. So this is our website. You can also visit our website. Shortly, we are going to post a lot of introduce short-term courses. So thank you so much, Dr. Bennett and Southfield College admin team and each and everyone to given this opportunity. So once again, I welcome all of you for this second day program. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Bennett, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vasudevan, sir, for giving the brief introduction. Dear participants, we told in the group that today we'll be starting the session by 6:30. Since we all people gathered earlier, so we have decided to give the brief orientation about the collaborating in hosting institutions. So today, what was that? A brief presentation was given by Dr.
Dr.
Vasudevan
Bennett,
sir,
sir,
who is the
over to
founder
you.
and yeah, so founder and manager of IIDM. So now, without taking much time, it is time to introduce our chief guest of the day.
Divagar,
So let
I'm
me
audible.
invite.
So Divagar, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes. So thank you so much, Vasu sir. Am I audible now?
Yes, Bennett, sir, you're audible.
Yes. So thank you so much. As per the notification given by today, we are supposed to start the event by 6:30. So being the available resource person today, sir was completely busy. But anyway, he has agreed to take the session on the particular topic. So
Dr.
today
Bennett,
the
sir.
session starts from 6:30 to 8:30. Don't worry. So if we are running
Hello.
out of time, we will be ending out the particular time. So classes will
Hello.
be taken in a proper way by the experts. Now without
Bennett,
taking
sir,
much
I'm
time,
audible.
let me let me hand over the session to the resource person. Before that, we have to introduce a resource person. Let me call Poonam ma'am to introduce the resource person of the day. Over to you, ma'am. Poonam ma'am.
Okay. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening to one and all. So it's my pleasure to introduce today's resource person, Dr. Rakesh Thakur. Dr. Rakesh Thakur is a distinguished academic and sociologist with an illustrious career spanning over 25 years. He holds a MA from University, New Delhi. As a faculty member at Postgraduate Government College, Chandigarh, Dr. Thakur has been instrumental in shaping the academic landscape through his passionate teaching, research, and public service. His expertise in sociology has significantly contributed to advancing the social sciences and promoting societal welfare. A total of 7 students have completed PhD under his supervision. Dr. Thakur's research focuses on critical social issues, informing policy and practice, and he has successfully completed an ICMR funded project. He has authored numerous publications, presented papers at national and international conferences, and participated in prestigious projects with GFATM Round 7 and UNDP. A dedicated educator, Dr. Thakur has mentored generations of students, inspiring critical thinking and intellectual curiosity. His commitment to academic excellence, social responsibility, and community engagement has earned him recognition as a leading figure in Indian sociology. Dr. Rakesh Thakur, Associate Professor in Sociology at Postgraduate Government College, Sector 11, Chandigarh. Chandigarh Administration, MA and MPhil and PhD in Sociology from JNU, New Delhi. Master Trainer and Supportive Supervisor for Global Fund GFATM Round 7 for School of Public Health, PGIMER, Chandigarh from 2009 to 2015. Resource person for NLU Jodhpur, IMT Ghaziabad for online PhD program research methodology since 2009 to 12. Visiting faculty resource person at Economics Honours School 5-year integrated program at Punjab University, Chandigarh since 2010 to 2016. Completed ICMR funded research project 19,85,000 on menstrual hygiene, did social audit for UNDP for Beti Bachao and Beti Parao and POSCO Act for Haryana total government. More than 25 years of teaching, advocacy, and research experience. So please join me to give a warm welcome to Dr. Rakesh Thakur. Thank you.
Thank you
Over
so
to
much, ma'am, for the brief introduction about the resource person. Yeah, now without taking much time, let me hand over the session to Dr. Sir. Rakesh Thakur, sir, over to you, sir. Sir, you're not audible, sir.
Yeah, am I audible now? Am I audible
Yes,
now?
sir, perfectly audible,
Yes, sir,
perfectly
now
fine.
you're audible. Okay, thank you. So a very good evening to all of you. Sorry for starting the session late because as a part of Chandigarh administration, we were supposed to be doing a Rojgar Mela as the command of the central government in the city Beautiful. And we successfully completed by, almost more than 200 students were placed from the Tri-City. So I would like to share my screen. Just tell me if I can do that, if my screen is being shared or not. Is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, good. Okay, so let me begin. Now, at the very start, let me tell you, all of you, that this talk is not about the quantitative versus qualitative debate. We are not pitching the qualitative method versus the quantitative method, but we are trying to find the meaning of qualitative method and how is it central to understanding human society in its totality, right? So I would start by saying that qualitative research methods have become an integral part of social science research, offering a nuanced and contextualized understanding of social phenomena. So the key stress for me is contextualized understanding of social phenomena. However, the philosophical underpinnings of qualitative research are often overlooked or taken for granted. People, those who are pursuing their masters or even PhD, nobody goes deep behind what is the need, what is the context, why did the founding fathers of social sciences stressed, what are the philosophical moorings of these. Nobody cares much about it because perhaps this doesn't have so much of market value in terms of business research, in terms of large scale survey. But if you would look at the mankind, the way mankind has been doing research, the way everyday questions have come out from the philosophy of life and the life that me and you participants live every day, cannot be reduced to a mere data set. We cannot reduce ourselves to a number. We all are human beings. And by the end of the talk, I would make you ponder and think that to reduce human beings to data set is a fallacy. We all can understand the fineness of AI, but still the AI doesn't have the human concern because it is data fed. It creates its own understanding of data, but most of the time it forgets the human essence and values. Today talk is to take you back to those times where every context was meaningful, every research was human-centric, and research was not done for market, research was not done for profit, research was done for the pursuit of knowledge. Also, let me qualify my talk by being very, very clear that this talk is not an apology for what's happening all over the world. Every age, every generation have a particular genre of research. You have particular kind of movie which you like, particular kind of songs which become hit and popular. In similar fashion, based on the socio-economic condition and where does the funding come from, certain method and methodologies become very important and certain lose out on their focus. The whole purpose of my talk is to take you back to those times where we would understand the philosophical underpinnings of qualitative research. Now, qualitative research, primarily, the key philosophical themes that informs this approach in social sciences are deeply rooted in the philosophical traditions that shape their approach to understand human behavior and social phenomena. These methods, and in the beginning of few slides, there would be a bit of theory, and then I will take you to certain texts, modern as well as classics, which have talked about these philosophy, and you will understand that why understanding them become the core issue. Now, human behavior, to understand human behavior and social phenomena, these methods prioritize the subjective experiences and meaning which individual assign to their action and interaction, contrasting with the objective measurement emphasized in quantitative research. This talk of mine today delves into the philosophical underpinnings of qualitative methods, focusing on ontology, epistemology, and the interpretativist paradigm, which examines how these foundations influence research design and implementation, supplemented by empirical example from primarily sociological research. Now, ontology, my dear friends, is all about the nature of reality. Ontology concerns the nature of reality and what can be known about, how would be happening around us. In qualitative research, the ontological perspective often aligns with relativism, which posits that reality is subjective and multiple. It is not one. It is not unitary. It is not homogeneous. And this subjective reality is constructed through social interaction and experiences. Now, this stands in complete contrast to the quantitative method. The ontological perspective often aligns with relativism, which is in contrast to realism, which suggests that a single objective reality, independent of human perception, by embracing an relativist ontology. Now, let me explain how do we look at this. So, qualitative researcher is acknowledging that individuals may perceive and experience the same phenomenon differently, leading to a rich, nuanced understanding of social reality. For example, there are almost 200 participants or more who are listening to my lecture. Many of you would not be from a social science or would be from social science where there is more concern with data. The very response that each one of you would have to my lecture, if I would analyze that under narrative analysis, I would be able to understand what is the bedrock from which you speak. What is the background? What is your major concern? And remember, none of your responses would be either 100% true or 100% untrue, because there is no reality which is absolute, which is to be believed and which is to be understood. Reality is something which is changing. Now, a very recent example I will give you through which a lot is happening in America, to which I will come in detail. But qualitative research methods, if you would look, are a part of social sciences since time immemorial, and they offer a nuanced and contextualized understanding of social phenomena. So when we take these different individual experiences, perspective, and the context in which they occur, offering insight which many a time quantitative research might miss, right? Now I will try and move to my next slide, which is key points about qualitative research in social sciences. So first of all, in qualitative research, we are primarily focusing on meaning and context. Unlike quantitative research, which emphasizes numerical data, qualitative research aims to understand the why and the how. The why and the how of social behavior by exploring the meanings individual attribute to their experiences within their specific social context. The next point that becomes very interesting is that how data collection methods would be used. Now, qualitative research commonly uses technique like in-depth interview, participant observation, focus group, and document analysis to gather rich textual data. So, as I speak today, me and my research scholars are engaged in doing a project for the central government where we are trying to understand how the public, the janta, the masses, they look at the police in uniform. So I am doing this for Punjab. This work has been also already completed in Telangana. Then it will be proceeded into Rajasthan and a couple of more states. And then as the mandate has been given, based on our recommendation, the training of the state police would undergo a change. And we would see if there is a change in the perception of the police in the mind of the public. So what we are doing is, we have police with us in plain clothes, but we go to different categories of people. So we go to those people who are under trial. They are those people who have been charged, but their trial has not started. We go to those people who have been convicted and they are spending certain amount of time in the jail, including life imprisonment. Now, those who are spending time in life imprisonment, we see how many years they have completed, their behavior, and we generally ask them, what do they think about the police? Now, these are direct subjects which are correlated with the police in terms of their everyday life is now part of the police setup, whether it is in a prison, whether it is in a thana, or whether it is in a court. At number 2 level, there are these people who are their family members, and they also get to interact the police at the police station, in the court, as well as in the lockup and jail. Then there are many citizens who go to the police station, or the police come to them looking for their passport verification, so many kind of licenses which people apply for, including the vegetable hawkers you would see in your cities. They also kind of need a police clearance. So there are so many subsections. You know, when we go for these kind of data collection, believe me, qualitative method assumes its own observation, because for me and my student, every person is as different from the other, and always there is a story which is sad, at times full of cruelty, at times full of angst and anger. But finally, our mandate is to understand what is the perception of the police in the eyes of the public. And that perception is so varied. But as a researcher, we have to find out certain commonalities, because the training manual cannot incorporate everything, but it would do certain common things which we would be arriving at. By sharing this example with all of you, my simple submission is, please understand, when you would study human beings as your subject in everyday life, going about rites of passage from birth, marriage, to funeral ceremony, to post-funeral ceremony of a person, somewhere the quantitative techniques fails us to make us arrive at the truth. The process of analyzing qualitative data is often iterative, where researchers continuously refine their understanding. When I say refine their understanding, me and my student, when we sit with this long interview, FGD recording, every time we see that we are coming at certain final references. But the moment we move from Mohali to Ropar, the setting changes, the present changes, the Thana changes, our understanding changes. So we have to continuously revisit and interpret the data as new insights emerge. Now, this is where what the reality is all about becomes very, very important. So what are the strengths that we are looking for? You know, when you are looking at a research question in a very, very deep manner, what is the strength that you are looking for? So qualitative research allows for a nuanced understanding of complex social issues. And I'll be giving you real life example. For example, what is happening to Muslims in America after 9/11? How did the partition between India and Pakistan? You know, all these kind of research cannot be based on quantitative methods. You will not be able to catch the pain, the understanding of those tears, the separation, the stigma, you know. So thus we have to be continuously in a reflective mood, do a reflexive sociology, and that is what becomes very valuable when we are studying, especially under research topics, or when you are exploring new research area. Remember, one of my student, she's doing in Himachal Pradesh her PhD on transgenders, hijras, and it is so difficult for her to break into the field and connect with her, and how the official data does not match what is happening in the real social setting. If I look at the official data provided under RTI, they would say that in whole of the district, there are only 18, 19 transgender people. But when you travel to that whole hill region, you will find more than 130 and 40. Now, what is the politics behind research? Why certain people are included in data set and why certain people are excluded in data set? It is out there that you have to understand the philosophy, the underpinnings, the political debates, the economic conundrums. There are so many issues. When we are looking in this country, the lived experiences of marginalized group, those who have been doubly discriminated, those who are at the margins of the society, but still after so many years of independence, we have been tom-tomming reservation policy, but still you would see when you would work with the people in small towns and cities, they're still engaged in many of those professions, especially in villages of Haryana and also Punjab. Officially, all this has gone. But you would realize that the worship place, the places which they eat, the way they interact with, these all are lived, and there is a background behind it. There's a certain socio-cultural context behind it. There are certain social capital that we are talking about it. Now, as a researcher, we are also investigating the challenges by individuals from minority communities through when you interact with them one-to-one. In a public setting, they would feel not free to come openly and voice their concern. Remember, the moment you become an qualitative researcher, you do not at any time where the glasses or lens of your own religion, your own cultural values, your own subjective biases, because you are in the business of exploring cultural norms and values, right? I just want to ask, I hope I'm audible to everybody. Just quick response. Somebody would say yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
you are audible, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Now, when we go to the field to explore cultural norms and values, I remember one day there was a respondent who was very open and convincing to me in, talking about the police behavior. But the next day, when I was revisiting these questions again to finally understand that does he still hold the same notion and values, he was mumbling or whispering. I told him in Hindi, आप कल तुसी इतने अच्छे से बात कर रहे थे, की हो गया, की गल हो गई? What happened to you? So I did not say anything, but he raised my eyebrows, his eyebrows, and quietly told me to look over your shoulders. Now, the same person who was 3 days ago was on duty outside the police station in uniform was standing behind me in plain clothes. Now, what the police had done to protect us, a researcher, from any attack or any untoward incident, because I have girl students who were also questioning, it was a cross-cultural context. I realized that for my safety, I was putting my objectivity under jeopardy. So I requested him, "Aap chale jaiye. Aap please chale jaiye." That guy did not understand. I cancelled the whole day data collection and I had to go somebody upstairs and tell them, we don't want policemen who are attached to that thana, even in the plain clothes. Get the policemen from some other thana. So the victim or the relative whom we are talking should not feel intimidated. So there are these small body languages and gestures. If as a researcher, you would look into, you will understand what I am talking about. Now, when we are conducting participant observation within a specific community to observe and interpret behavior and interaction, your role is important, but your role is important as a non-participant observation. Remember, you are there merely as an observer. So when I teach my student, when I'm researching for any UNDP project that I get, the first thing I tell my student that let's sit down and for 7 hours, 8 hours continuously, 3 days, 4 days, I teach them the art of paraphrasing. That means any answer which I would get would be within a certain social cultural context. Now, what does happen that the respondent would always look towards you and would like to see if the interviewer is agreeing with me or not agreeing with me, or his body language or facial expressions would make somebody happy or unhappy. Now, as a researcher in qualitative methods, remember, paraphrasing is generally again repeating what the respondent had said. We neither add to it, neither do we subtract anything, neither do we give an answer in affirmation or in negation. Now, when you get this rich kind of data and you analyze it within a theoretical context, many of the social policy becomes very, very relevant. So we also analyze social policy impact, and I will again give you a very, very small example. In 2009 and 10, the government of India asked me to do a research of the impact of in Himachal Pradesh. Now, we all would agree that midday meal scheme is a fantastic program But till I didn't come my research, I was very happy. I read a lot of reviews and I could understand there were issues, but it was delivering on the front of nutrition and also in terms of inclusion, because even in nutrition, as well as the students were going to the school. So I had a simple hypothesis. I said, well, I understand that when you look at a public policy from a philosophical point of view, you try and understand who are the people benefiting, was the policy made, what are the backgrounds in Indian Constitution for the policy, was it addressing some kinds of directive principle of state policy, was it strengthening certain fundamental rights in our Constitution, so on and so forth. Now, I said that all government programs run very well in a center. So I do not know how many of you know the map of Himachal, but if Shimla is the center point, if Shimla is one district, Kulu is another district, and Rekong-Pio is another district. So what I did, I chose the last village from Shimla, which was happening near a place called Rampur Bushehr. I also chose the farthest village from Kulu, which was across the river from the Rampur Bushehr Hydel Policy Project. And 2 kilometers up hills, I had the farthest village from Rekong-Pio. Now, these 3 sites or sample I did, it was a purposive sampling that I was choosing the last village from the center, the last Jilla school, the district school I could find. I went to those villages. You would be amazed to know, when I went to these schools, there were some commonalities which I found. I would not be discussing this in great detail. This went into my government report later. But when I went to the school without telling the school, so we went and we kind of put a lock and key on the school front gate. And I said, all teachers, those who are present on duty, should come to me for a cup of tea, as well as the student, and we sat down. I realized the strength of the school was 125 and there were only 45 students who were present. The total number of teachers in that school was 3 and only 1 was present and 2 were missing and the principal was there. And where are the other people? They said, you are a social scientist. Please understand our problem before we report. I said, yes. So under the government had said, if the children are not going to get midday meal scheme, will be affected. So I said, like it's a part of your duty now. So they said, I said, why? This for these many people, every week, 1 gas cylinder or after 4 days finishes off. So I said, you buy more, is that not allowed? They said, yes, it's allowed, but gas cylinder are allowed as per the receipt. I said, what is the problem? They said, the road from which you have walked your camera team, it's a 2-hour uphill climb. And for that, we have to pay the porter. So the principal and the 3 teachers were sharing the charges of the porter. It became very heavy for them. They started teaching 1 class in a day and the other class used to go to the jungle nearby to collect woods to get to the school so that the chulha could burn and the meal could be cooked. I could never in my wildest dream imagine that a school which main function is and Manrega was designed to attract students to school so their nutritional need are to fulfilled because of Manrega was suffering. At another level, I said, what about the cook? Where is the cook? They said, cook also says we will not be able to come every day for cooking because 2 hours climb is a lot and no cook wants to stay back in the school. Then I said, what happens? They said, one teacher cooks, the other collects the woods, and the students help them. This had what come of the school. Then I called the panchayat members and I told them, Ki, why don't you not let every household take turn so that they can cook for their own children? 2-3 ladies can volunteer. And then the demon of caste system came. As many people said, certain caste children will not eat the food cooked by certain. Now, do you understand? You never get this kind of data when you are doing quantitative research. This you can only get when you stay in the field, you are with the field, and you come back with your notes and you philosophically reflect on what Baba Saheb Ambedkar was telling us. What was he afraid of? And what was the intent of the reservation policy, and how we need to do so much more by telling the government to look into the matter. So when we are conducting interviews with individuals affected by a new policy to understand their perception and experience, whether it is a panchayat member in a village of Himachal or where there is a life prisoner about to be hanged to death, talking about the police experience, the data is so rich that you cannot quantify the experience of that particular him or her. Okay. So now let me come and talk to you about this epistemological odyssey and why I am today unpacking the philosophy behind qualitative methods in social science research. Look, I will not be taking a lot of names because, maybe all of you are very learned, perhaps more learned than me. You would know it and you would get a lot of it in the books. So I will not. But if you look at this diagram, so there is one part which is a belief and there is one part which is a truth. Now, as a social researcher, you would always realize that at some time, the belief have their own intrinsic value in constructing what exactly the social reality is all about. Many a times, there are certain truths, there are certain absolute truth, and it is in this gray area between truth and knowledge and belief that a researcher has to arrive at the understanding, at what constitutes the real. So epistemological questions, dear friends, are inquiries about the nature of knowledge. Like how I'm acquiring the data. Did I go to the field? Did I spend enough time in the field? Did I go with a understanding of that I do not know anything of the field and whatever comes to me will help me understand the field? Or did I have pre-assumptions about the field? All these questions, how you acquire knowledge, that you self understand that this is the limit of my knowledge. I told my research student, whenever you go to a police station, whenever you go to a jail, remember that you have not been inside. You have not spent even a single day inside a lockup. So don't go from a sense of knowingness. Go with a blank slate. Go with a tabula rasa, empty plate, and ask yourself when you come back, what is the knowledge that I have learned? There are many a times my student would come in the evening and said, oh my God, sir, today it is very, very difficult for us to believe. And my question to them would be, okay, so today you have confronted life in a new situation. In your wildest of the dream, you could not have imagined that this kind of crime would have occurred. And something like Fyodor Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, or Brother Karamazov, can we ever know anything with certainty? These are the questions which researchers must ask. How do you justify your belief? What is the difference between belief and knowledge? Are there limits to what we can know about the world? Now, these are the questions with which a social scientist struggles all the life. And finally, which we teach in undergraduate classes. You know, I'm a sociologist, so I very often begin my lecture in undergraduate first year. Sociology is the scientific study of society. But the question to me, to those of your researchers, is scientific knowledge the only reliable form of knowledge? Now, these are the questions which I would like you to ponder over when you are doing your research, when you are with your research students, or when you are doing a project. Remember, it is these questions which will make our world a better place. It is these questions in the public sphere which will help you contest the dominant narrative. It is these questions which will bring to the forefront those who are at the margins. So, what are the key questions about the epistemological and ontological assumptions of qualitative research? So, you first focus on the nature of the knowledge, then delve into the fundamental characteristics and criteria that define knowledge. Then you should question the source of knowledge. Is it the secondary sources? Are you reading the original, or like grounded theory? All these knowledge is coming from the field. You must be able to come to yourself and ask, how do I know things? Whether through experience, whether through reason, whether through intuition, or through testimony. All these testimony, intuition, reason, experience, many a times can be problematic too. Many a times, these can be extremely subjective. Now, that is where we come to the limits of knowledge. Whatever method we might apply, whatever way of data collection we might be undertaking, remember, all of them have certain kind of limitation. What is applicable in one situation is not necessarily applicable in another situation. So let's consider where there are things we can never know, or if there are inherent limitations to human understanding. Let's always keep this in mind. This is not to make you feel or surrender to the complexities of human reality, but to take a relook at the method and methodologies which are known to mankind. And the moment you start to take a relook at them, maybe one of you can come up with new methods and new methodology. This coming of new method and methodology by you would be the new philosophical underpinnings which would give more life and breadth to research in social sciences. Now, exploring the epistemological and ontological assumptions of qualitative research. So, the next question which you might ask is, what is the relationship between justification and truth and knowledge? Now, this is the question which many of my students comes and says, sir, after talking for a week to this lady or a person, it looks that he or she has suffered injustice. Then I tell them, this might be your subjective feeling because you are overwhelmed by the situation of the person who are narrating you their life history, the way you are recording them. But the business of pronouncing them guilty or not guilty lies with the judiciary. Our job is not to look at their life narrative, but to understand that in their life narrative, what is the perception which they carry about the police. So at times, young students, young researcher, they lose focus. They get overwhelmed by the field. Many of them would want to become like Medha Patkar. From a researcher, they would like to turn activist. Well, it is their choice. They can do that. Action research and action sociology is very much in vogue. But as a researcher, I would tell them to suspend their belief as of now and continue with the task of data collection. So, again, this question, can we ever truly know something beyond our own subjective experience? What role does skepticism play in the pursuit of knowledge? How can we distinguish reliable information from misinformation? In today's age of WhatsApp University, which I have a lot of respect for WhatsApp as an information dissemination system, but I'm very scared of the WhatsApp University, where big discourses about public figures, about international happenings, about future, about past, and history is daily being mutated and new history is being written. At times, I have to revisit and ask myself, which is the history which I should stop believing, or is this the history that there is some truth to? So finally, as WhatsApp history does not pass the canon of knowledge, more or less, I treat it as a trash. And I also read this history in my class, where I tell students, what do we mean when we talk about reliable information from misinformation? So is there a difference between knowing that and knowing how? Now, these are the questions which you must ask. So, as I said before, epistemology deals with the nature and scope of knowledge, including how knowledge is acquired and validated. Okay. So qualitative research from the time of Max Weber, who wrote The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, kind of a father of interpretatism, an epistemological stance that emphasizes understanding the meaning of individuals attached to their life experiences. So interpretativism argues that knowledge is subjective and co-constructed between the researcher and the participant. This approach requires researchers to engage deeply with participants, often through methods like interviews, observation, analysis of personal narrative, to interpret the meaning behind social phenomena. So what are we trying to say? Say, for example, as of now, I'm planning to do a research where I'm challenging the whole concept of BMI. All of us have our height and weight and the waist circumference, and we are trying to declare people, fit or unfit. Now, as a sociologist, I find this very, very problematic. Now, in numbers, it shows very well. But when I look at the data of 1,000 students who exercise daily, so I do 500 control group, 500 non-control group, and I realize that it is really flawed. So I am trying to come up with something where physical fitness can be understood in terms of cultural context, in the context of age to which you belong, in the context of religion which you practice, in the context of food that you use. And I'm trying to argue is basal metabolic expenditure. That is what we would come up. It is, the whole idea is still under, validation. We have to apply to ICMR for more funding and, So, when they were introducing to me, they said, I have completed a project of ICMR of 20 lakh rupees. So I did this project from 2019 to 2021. Now, I will tell you that how the research which I did from 2019 to 2021 is very, very different from the research which I plan to take with my students of this basal metabolic expenditure. Remember, this concept we are still trying to develop, and we are trying to look at various, parameters and variables. We are still not it. But the first research which I completed 2 years ago was a research which was also for me personally very, very philosophical. I realized that in India, there are certain months when little girls are worshipped as devis. They are given good food, and the whole tradition is known as Kanya Pujan, where little girls in North India and also other part of India, including East India, Bengal, Bihar, Assam, they are worshipped on the Ashtami Pujan or Nami Pujan, and they are giving nice puris and, you know, a few gifts and bangles, and they go from house to house giggling. But at the other instances, they are also extremely discriminated. Now, I live in a city, Chandigarh, perhaps, which is one of the most affluent city of this country, a 9 lakh population, which is permanent, another 5 lakh, which comes in and out. But in this city, there are marginalized of marginalized. So I took 50s, my sample size, dear friends, were 50. All these students in Chandigarh were school dropouts. They were girl students, and they were mild and moderate mentally challenged. They were Divyang, mild and moderate. I went to the Samagra Shiksha department. I took out their whole list of student coming, the family coming before BPL. I zeroed down on all the girl students. Then I further went and, fine-tuned my data to those girls who had dropped out of school and those who were mentally challenged, mild or moderate. And I said, the basic dignity of a girl child is to manage her menstrual hygiene. She's a girl. She's a girl from a poor family. She's a girl who is a school dropout. She's a girl who's mentally challenged. And she's a girl, in my study, which I found out because most of this family were below poverty line, they found this girl child a burden. So me and two of the research scholar whom I have engaged as my research assistant for 2 years, we started preparing a booklet. We bought big life-size dolls to train these girls, and we recorded their status prior to our intervention. Then we collected that data. We decided how we would go. These, both my research assistant used to go to their home, take permission. I was not there when the data was being collected, being a male. And every day they came back and we used to sit down and do narrative analysis and how did the training go. And after training those girls for 50 years, for those 50 girls for almost 1 year, we again went to the field and started collecting the data. And we realized almost 75% girls were able to manage their bodily function. So we understood that it is the human apathy, it is the give up approach of the family and the society as well as the school, which makes them more and more inward looking. They go through so much of pain without anybody realizing, because all their pain are understood to be that they are in some way mentally not as able as a normal human being. Now, it is this analysis of personal narrative to interpret the meaning behind social phenomena. Remember, friends, the sample size was very small, 50, but it took us much more than 1 year. It is out here where you ask yourself, what is the nature of knowledge? How do you understand discrimination? How do you understand the whole gender question? Is gender a homogeneous category or there's more to it, right? So interpretism is an epistemological stance that emphasizes understanding the meaning individual attached to their experiences. Okay, so we will move ahead of this slide and go to next. So now let's come to some of the very, very empirical example. Now, there is this famous sociologist called Dorothy Smith, and she talks about institutional ethnography, which is for sociology for people. Now, in this, she exemplifies the interpretivistic epistemology. Now, Smith developed institutional ethnography as a method of inquiry that starts from individual experiences and examines how institutional processes shape those experiences. By analyzing personal narrative and everyday activity, Smith co-constructed knowledge with her participants, revealing the complex interplay between individual agencies and institutional structures. This approach highlights the interpretivist emphasis on understanding the meaning individual assigned to their experiences within broader social context. Okay. So I will again come with a small study that I did in Haryana. So I do not know how many of you are aware of Anthony Giddens, but Professor Giddens has given a very, very interesting theory. And that theory is all about structure and agencies. So put it simply, all the law, folkways, custom, mores, rules and regulation that the society put, I would call it as a structure. You know, if I come to any one of your house and ask me to prove how you will prove that your father is your father and your mother is a mother, actually there's no proof. This is a question which I ask my postgraduate and PhD scholar. If I come to your home for a tea, now that you have chosen me to make your PhD supervisor, I'll come for a cup of tea and then ask you this question. So at times they would say, sir, we would take our Aadhaar card. You would take our birth of certificate. But simply speaking, because two people who are in a relationship which is also sexual in nature, which has got a cultural context, which has got a religious legitimacy, which is legally documented, which has been culturally celebrated by two different sets of family who got your mom and dad together, and all the children born out of this conjugal union would be the responsibility of this couple, makes your mummy and your papa, and all the thing that happens in your house, the folkways, the mores, the glance which your mother gives when she has to tell you not to do something, or the way your father, you know, clears his throat and you know it's time to get serious. All these defines the structure of your family. What is the dominant narrative? Is it a North Indian patriarchal society where the women, till the time they are daughters, they're small, they are studying dutifully, they are perfect, they are happy, they are idolized, but the moment they start asserting, sorry, did somebody say something? Should I continue? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can continue. Sir. We are listening.
Okay, guys. Now, the moment a girl turns a teenager and she reaches adulthood and she dares to daydream, or daydream is a very, very fishy word, to come to a more sociological context, the day she starts asserting the right that she has over her body in terms of her reproductive right and sexual right, and she would tell her parents that she has made a decision about her life partner where she doesn't care about the existing structure of class, caste, the village panchayat, all hell breaks loose. So I wrote a paper under Professor Rajesh Gill of Punjab University. Will this happen to her? Will this happen to her? So I don't know if you guys have heard in different parts of India, but there's a very famous Babli Kand, where there was a girl who was bright, she was young, and she asserted the right of her body belonging to her and not to her male patriarchal kin group. And she said she will decide on her life partner. And when she decided, after being blessed with a child, both of them came back to their villages to celebrate this and ask for forgiveness from their parents. But the existing patriarchal structure of the North Indian village, where the panchayat becomes sometime hounding, it's as evil as the evil can be, and the panchayat asked them to become brother and sisters. When they refused, the villagers said the parents would look after the child, but please give away this baby and become brother and sister, because people from the same panchayat, from the same village, are bhai behan, they are brother and sister, they cannot marry. When these two couples did not agree, in the name of killing, honor killing, they were chopped into pieces, and the court went to the upper court. We'll not get into the judicial argument, but please understand the whole philosophy behind the existence of patriarchy in our country, in our society, and how a single girl is the agency for me in Anthony Giddens' structuration theory. She is challenging the structure around. And it is in this dialogue between the structure and the agency that new folkways, new mores, new laws are written, that as of now I speak, if any village of Haryana, there is an honor killing, the SHO, the panchayat members are immediately put behind bars with a non-bailable warrant. Now, do you friends understand how important it is for us to go into the field with a philosophical mindset? It is generally understood in today's globalized world that philosophical mindset is a way to get waylaid in the field. Those who are doing research for market, for profit, or for ways in which productivity can be understood. I, as a sociologist or researcher, I do not hold any grudge, but my simple submission is only one. When you are handling human emotions in social context, please do not quantify them. That is where Dorothy Smith's institutional ethnography, a sociology for people, becomes extremely important. Okay, so now I will take you to some very, very, small questions. I will take you to certain very, very small questions, and we will try and see, how we can do it. So these are the questions which you can ask yourself. We'll go through these very questions. Epistemological questions are questions about knowledge, such as what is knowledge? How do we know? Epistemological is the philosophical study of knowledge, also known as the theory of knowledge. We'll not get into the detail. Then it would go into the philosophy. Remember now, this is not a class on philosophy. This is the class on, I'm trying to justify why research should have a philosophical background. So you would ask yourself, what is knowledge? How is this knowledge acquired? Remember I was talking about subjective reality. Till that point of time when that Babli Hatya Kand did not happen, that barbaric massacre of that girl, full of life, full of future, and that of her husband, just in the name of a village bhaichara. So up till now, this was the taken way. This was the reality. This might not, and this was the truth of the people of that village, and everybody felt they were right in doing it because the village honor was being. But there was this girl. So what do people know in the field? How have they come to this understanding of what they believe today? What are the necessary and sufficient conditions of knowledge? Why is it that we as professors, we as citizens do certain kind of public posturing, but behind our four walls, we still practice caste and its atrocities? Why is that? Why, as a professor of philosophy, I should have a different face, and in my personal life, I should. These are the questions which will, because if you go to the field, you will understand that a classroom is an act of performance. Activism at times is also nowadays become a part of visual sociology. But actually who you are, what you are, and how do you sit together and reconcile these multiple faces of yours, or are you comfortable with you? What makes justified beliefs justified? These are the questions, these are the philosophical questions which you must ask, a researcher must ask. So we'll not get into God. God is God. What distinguishes belief and opinion from knowledge? What are the sources of knowledge, like perception, inference, and testimony? So the epistemology of a research project helps define the approach to the study. Okay. So if you believe that there is only one truth, or there can be multiple truth. Okay. So let's move on. This we have kind of talked about. Okay, now look at this. Look at this picture. I hope this is very, very clear to all of you. So also let me go to the next slide. Can you see this ship? All of you recognize this? Our favorite Titanic going down with the beautiful and very romantic couple, which when I was in the university, it was one of the biggest hit the whole world over, right? So all of us know we are talking about Titanic. And at the other side, I have talked about the hull, the iceberg, and the Titanic. And now let's look at Titanic from a bit of a sociological perspective. So ontology concerns the nature of reality and what can be known about it. In qualitative research, the ontological perspective often aligns with relativism, which points that reality is subjective and multiple, constructed through social interaction and experiences. So let me repeat. The ontological perspective often aligns with relativism, which posits that reality is subjective and multiple, constructed through social interaction and experience. So all of us know the Titanic, right? All of you know. Okay. So there are two scenes which I'm going to discuss. And the one scene which I think is the most philosophical, I might be very, very subjective about it. But the most philosophical scene for me in the whole movie, which also has a sociological relevance, is just look at it. So when Titanic is about to sink, there is a sailor who comes to the captain and tells, "Sir, she's almost going down. Why don't you take a life jacket and take a boat and go and save yourself?" And he says that and he ran away. If all of you would remember the naval adage, the captain would be the last to leave the ship. You must have heard of it. I'm very sure this is not what is muttered even in low breath. But the captain goes and he realizes the ship is about to sink. He goes to the wall clock in front of it and he fixes the wall clock. And he fixes the timepiece of that wall clock, puts it to stop for eternity, that whenever this wreck would be discovered, people would know that the best ship in the world, which was made to sail from this end to the other end. And there was, if you remember the beginning of the Titanic movie, how the investors are making big claim, the fastest ship. I remember the captain exclaiming, "Let her go full blast so we can beat the time frame in which we have to reach across." All those things would come running through your mind. But the captain chooses to live by the naval adage of honor. The captain would be the last to leave the ship and he holds the keel of the ship. And he just stands there. And at his side, you would realize that there are 3-4 musicians hired to play in that journey who are about to run away and save their life. But when they see the captain of the ship standing there in his honor, and perhaps in the honor of the oncoming death, the ultimate reality which we all face in some time or the other. There can be this research question which can never be explained. Why death? What death? Though I have also worked in this area with Global Fund, but really answers are very difficult to come. We'll discuss that at certain point in my talk today. How do we do research in grief and death? But the question is, all four of them play for the captain. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you the philosophy or the thought that is going in the captain's mind. So in the naval parlance, the captain would be the last to leave the ship. It means the captain is the guardian of the ship. He is the protector of the ship, and he goes down with the ship. At the another level, if you would look at the next slide, if you could look at the Titanic, so all those who were on the upper deck belong to certain wealthy class, including our heroine. And all of them were told to go safe and make their way out in life jackets and through those, boats which were being, taken down, because the company, to save the money on life jacket and this, human confidence that we are the best, they had not put enough life-saving boat. So who were being denied? Remember, water gushing and people being locked in the lower deck to suffocate and die. Whom did they belong to? Does it not have a very, very strong class angle? Don't you see that many colored people are a part of those group? Those who are poor, those who are colored, those who are black, those who are on the margins of society. Don't you think that the axis of class and gender is so clear in those scenes? Remember, when we talk about the captain experience and his act, this is the kind of philosophy which I'm talking about. And when we look about what is happening to this gentleman, to these various people from different classes, you realize that how reality is class. So what is the nature of reality? Nature of reality in media was, this was a ship which could not be sink. All the high mighty were taking a kind of a cruise, a fast cruise from one continent to another continent. And there were so many who were going to look for a new life. But what happened? So this is the nature of reality. And now let's talk about some more reality, which is more in the face, more difficult. So let me come to this. There are these images which you all must be aware of. The 9/11, where the Twin Towers in Manhattan, in New York, they came down crashing, and the world did not remain the same. There were people who did this act of terrorism. I completely condemn them. But if you would look at the media narrative on all these incidents, what happened to the Muslim Americans after 9/11? Everybody who had a long beard, who had a particular surname, was put under a question mark. How did those people living a normal life, going to office, putting their children to school, paying their taxes on time, they were dutiful American citizens, but just because they happened to be Muslims, they were being stigmatized and they were being targeted. How does the social science address these different kind of concerns? Okay, so for me, studies like this, Lori speak behind the backlash. Muslim Americans after 9/11 become very, very very, very important for me to understand, right? So when you ask these kind of question, even in context of your own country, or in context of Bangladesh today, or in context of Asia, or whatever you can think of, you will realize that yes, we need to rethink our role as a researcher. Subjectivity is lurking down within you, outside you, around you. The task of a researcher is to negotiate and to arrive at the social context in which these lurkings happen, and to distance themselves, and thus you can arrive at the understanding of social reality. Okay, so this was one. Now, behind the backlash, after this, in the work of Professor Laurie Peak, it was published by Temple University Press in 2011. Those of you would get a chance, please read this. A nice work. You'll understand. Now, this work primarily addresses the violence Muslim Americans faced unexpectedly living in post 9/11 United States. Why I'm talking about? I live in Chandigarh, which is the capital of Punjab and Haryana. And I will tell you that how after the killing of Mrs. Gandhi in 1984, lot of Punjabis were vilified in and around Delhi, 200 kilometers east, west, south, north, and they had to go through hell. That alienated many of the youngsters. Many of their family are still missing for their lost brother, their lost sons. There are so many court cases going till, so we'll not get into the political. But what becomes important for many of you to examine that how, just like in this Laurie Peak study, stereotypes, stigmas, and discrimination against the religion of Islam has affected many peaceful followers, as well as Arabs and those from the Middle East, how everybody became a suspect. Anybody who was on the other side became a suspect. Peak's work provided a platform for the stories and voices of 120 Muslim American citizens, bringing light to their experiences of navigating the tension and difficulties they experienced in response to the 9/11 terrorist attack. Behind the backlash is a hallmark lens for showing the abuse, racism, and oppression of Muslim in post 9/11 turmoil. Many of you researchers can do these kind of study in your city, in your state. Please, we have been brought together on a platform. Many of us can collaborate and we can bring about a major change the way things happen in our country. There can be strong civil society coming into a being, not on emotions, but on solid qualitative research, right? So Peak created in-depth perspective within her piece by writing about the issues of how Muslim, for many walks of life, identified during such a dangerous time, as well as how their treatment as Muslim Americans differed from before and after the attack. Now, these are the nature of reality. Ontology is about nature of reality. Can you see Barack Obama Sahab in the picture? The first colored president of United States of America, right? And Muslims were a big voter. So these are the questions which you need to ask yourself. So an illustrative example of this ontological perspective is found in Peak's in-depth interview with Muslim Americans to explore their lived experiences following the September 11 attack. Her research revealed diverse personal narratives, highlighting how social interaction and societal context shaped individual realities. This study underscores the relativist ontology, that is the nature of reality for every family, by demonstrating the same event was experienced and interpreted in multiple ways by different individuals influenced by their unique social environment. As I speak to you, I'm sitting in my office. I'm delivering this lecture. And for some reason, something happens in this area where people from the region from which I come, or the religion from which I come, or the surname which I carry, they do something and there is a riot. They would come and very easily kill me or threaten me or make me feel very, very nervous, despite the fact that I'm the first one to say that I'm a sociologist and I understand that this is not the right thing and I'm doing a research on these lived experiences. Perhaps they will not let me live in this world. Forget about talking about my lived experience. Do you understand how dangerous it can be? So research is not very easy when you are doing in the so the interpretative paradigm is a framework within qualitative research that seeks to understand the complex world of lived experience from the point of view of those who live it. This paradigm is rooted in the philosophical tradition of hermeneutics and phenomenology. We'll not get into detail of hermeneutics and phenomenology, but simply hermeneutics focuses on the interpretation of text and the understanding of meaning, while phenomenology centers on the study of conscious experience as experienced from the first person perspective. Now, to give a very small example of both of this, remember as small children, we used to sit in a group and we used to whisper something. A child would whisper something into the child sitting in the next. And you know, children are so clever about reality, which we adults forget. And then that children would talk to the next. And in the end, the last child would tell the first child, this is what I would have heard. And all the children in their innocence would clap and laugh as if telling, oh, we know now how reality is created. Because everything is an interpretation, whether it is a sacred text, whether it is a meaning attached to a conversation or to a social interaction. So everything is a first person experience. Together, these traditions inform an approach that values context, depth, and the co-construction of knowledge between the researcher and the participant. Okay. Now, let me come to another example. So, this is Kai Erikson. In 1976, this was a work which was called Everything in Its Path. This is another empirical example based on interpretative paradigm. Let me come to this. Now, Erikson conducted an in-depth study of the Buffalo Creek disaster, where a coal mining company dam collapsed, causing a devastating flood. Through extensive interview and participant observation, Erikson captured the lived experience of the disaster survivor, interpreting the profound social and psychological impacts of the event. This particular work reflects the hermeneutic and phenomenological commitment to understanding the individual's subjective experience within their specific context. So I have used this Kai Erikson's Everything in Its Path, and I would come to an example in our very own country that happened in 1984, and many of you would have realized I am talking about the 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy, right? Up to 10,000 deaths in first 3 days. Additional 25,000 people died of related injuries by 1994. And many of you would be knowing that on December 3, 1984, a cloud of methyl isocyanate gas leaks from the Union Carbide pesticide plant, a plant set up by American company, and all of them escape. All of them escape overnight. None of them is tried. And thus begins the long haul of justice. Okay. And this is the next slide. Sorry, it's a bit gruesome. Don't mind. But that is how life and social scientists look at it. On the night of 2nd and 3rd December 1984, over over 500,000 people in the vicinity of Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, were exposed to the highly toxic gas methyl isocyanate in what is considered the world's worst industrial disaster. Estimate vary on the death toll, where the official number of immediate death being 2,259. Now, I am going to talk from a epistemological and ontological question, that certain questions can be framed based on the interpretative paradigm. So let's frame those questions. So as a researcher, if you would ask me, or if all of us together would like to study Bhopal gas disaster all over again and understand. So, humble submission, all of you are great minds listening to me. You all are, you can explore more and help me improve. But these are the few questions that I would do it. How did the survivor of the Bhopal gas tragedy construct and interpret their experiences in the aftermath of the disaster? Believe me, none of the structured questionnaire sent as a Google document would never come even close to the reality. To understand these narratives and how they have evolved, you have to get individually involved into in-depth interviews, and then you have to check it with focus group discussion. Now, all this pain, all this suffering, how did the local cultural belief, socioeconomic status, historical concept shape the responses and coping mechanism of affected community? How did they deal with this cancer growing inside them? How did they see that family after family were losing their members, small children, wives were losing husband were losing wives, mother, father, children? How do you study this? How do you look that? And to make it worse, how did the media, the government, and the corporate entities who ran away, who hired big lawyers in different courts of India, so that till today date, justice in many ways has not been done. And in many ways, it has been done where you think that by doling few lakh rupees, the love, the laughter, and the existence of a loved one can be brought back. How does our judiciary, how does our government, how did this survivor resist or negotiate these narratives? Or they said to the lower court, no, give us justice, punish the perpetrators. We don't want your 5,50,000. How did many of them negotiate? Or did many of them settle for this, that now life would go on? Now, these are such varied responses. There are so many philosophical questions about justice, about life, about truth, about, all kind of things. So, all these things are very important. These questions aim to explore the subjective lived experiences of those affected, their sense-making processes of the tragedy, and the broader social cultural impact of the disaster. Okay, so we would now do certain exploratory ways of few more case study, where we would see that how, we allow research questions and methods to evolve as the study progresses. So look at this. This is in a developed country. This is not India. Okay, this is a developed country. So we are going to look at the mental and the physical health condition of homeless population. In 2005, there was a Hurricane Katrina, a Category 5 hurricane, made a landfall in Florida and Louisiana in America. Okay, and out of this is just a picture to tell you the impact and intensity of what nature can do, whether you're in developed, underdeveloped, whatever, and what happens, right? For instance, in Children of Katrina, Alice Fothergill and Lori Peak adopted a longitudinal qualitative design to study the experiences of children affected by Hurricane Katrina. Remember why I'm bringing this example. Our South India, West Bengal, Orissa, lot of these people from where many of your friends are coming from, you can do certain kind of a study, to see what is the effect of these kind of natural disaster. Before, while I was trying to join, I could hear honorable director talking about disaster management, how they do a wonderful job. So this is very, very relevant for those participants who have worked. So the research design evolved over time, adapting to emerging themes and the changing circumstances of the participant, which provided a comprehensive understanding of the children's recovery trajectory. They did not take the whole family. They took the only children. How do the children in this situation, they suffer? Okay. So primarily their mental and physical health condition of homeless population. So data collection method that were adopted were in-depth interview, participant observation, and focus group was employed to gather rich, detailed data. These techniques facilitate a deep understanding of participant perspective and the context in which they operate. In displaced life in the Katrina diaspora, Lynn Weber and Lori Peak utilized in-depth interview to capture the experiences of the individuals, the families affected, displaced by Hurricane Katrina. This method allowed them to gather detailed personal account, shedding light on the challenges and resilience of the displaced person in various contexts. Now let's look at the role of the researcher. So in qualitative research, you, my dear friend, you are an active instrument in data collection and analysis. And everyday reflexivity is crucial, as researchers must continuously reflect on their own biases, assumptions, and influence on the research process, right? Now I'll tell you a very small example. So today I had many student volunteers helping me with the job mela. So these companies were served food in the room in a very nice pack. So many of my volunteers told me, sir, we will go and serve. And they went with a smile and served the food. Right? Just look. So when I ask a couple of them, now that you have served and they have eaten, and we'll start another round of interview, why don't you not go and pick it up? So a couple of girl students came and told me, sir, safai wale ko bula lijiye. Now, do you understand? Look at, it was the same plate which had the food. So the people ate. The students themselves said, we would like to go and be nice host and give it to sirs and ma'am and said, please enjoy your lunch. Thank you for coming for this campus placement to our college, blah, 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 blah. But the moment the food got over, there's this whole concept in North India of a jhootha khana, which is left for certain servants or underprivileged or underclass people to come. So I just smiled to a classroom and picked a couple of plates. That my job was to only act as a catalyst, and seeing their professor do, 5, 6 male students joined, and then everybody did it without me batting an eyelid. But I could understand that in their own house, getting food on the table is okay. But most of the time, if you have a servant, it is their job to clean the plate after you have eaten and left. Do you understand? Such a small time, such a small framework, and how the behavior changes. Now let's look at Wendy Luttrell's working class ways of knowing effects of gender, race, and class. In this, she exemplifies reflexivity in qualitative research. Luttrell reflected on her positionality and how her background influenced her interaction with participants and interpretation of the data, acknowledging the co-constructed nature of knowledge in her study. Okay. So Wendy Luttrell's working class woman ways of knowing effects of gender, race, and class exemplifies reflexivity in qualitative research. Luttrell reflected on her positionality, how her background influenced her interaction with participants and the interpretation of data, acknowledging the co-constructed nature of the knowledge in her study. Even the way you dress, the kind of handbag that you carry, the kind of pen with which you're jotting down, the number of gold chain necklace you have in your around your neck, the number of rings or bangles. All these can affect the data. Okay. So when we come to data analysis, involves identifying patterns, themes, and meanings within the data. Approaches like thematic analysis, narrative analysis, and grounded theory are commonly used to construct interpretations grounded in the data. Now, very quickly, we'll come to grounded theory. Many of you would have heard about the systematic generation of theory from systematic research, a set of rigorous research procedures leading to the emergence of conceptual category. Okay. Now, simply what do I mean is that you do not go to the field with a hypothesis, but once when you go to the field, you let the field help you develop by induction, emergence of concept deeply rooted in the empirical data. So when I used to work additionally for Global Fund Round 7, and I remember going to a Chennai hospital where there were only people who were going to die after 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Whatever hypothesis we went in mind, it all came flat. So we went to the field, we did the field work, and after that we used to sit down and say, okay, now the field speaks to us. And this is so grounded theory primarily will exemplify how philosophical foundation for qualitative methodologies. I remember, I'm forgetting the name of the hospital, or perhaps I should not come out with it in public, where I used to live from morning 9 till 8. And after every 3 days, I was given a patient who was for sure going to die within 3 days, 5 days, or 7 days. And I used to also help the people wrap the body. And, I was a specialist in grief management and crisis intervention and problem solving. And believe me, none of my sociological training used to help me. At many a times, I used to be numb with the shock as death just happened in front of me. But the people from the Global Fund would say, now your job starts. Start measuring the grief. Believe me, I could never measure this grief in numbers. There were always narrative analysis. Okay. So there is this whole critique of positivism that comes with qualitative research. The qualitative research primarily emerged as a response to the dominance of positivist approach in social science research. Many of you would be aware of it. I would not go into it because I can see in my watch, if I'm right, it's already 8:15. What is very interesting is something which I am planning to do on partition, which I would like to talk about with all of you, if possible. Or let me see what I can. How do I go about it? So let me jump this. So qualitative research is often associated with constructive epistemology, which posits that knowledge is constructed through social interaction and agreement. Constructive argue that reality is not an objective fact, but rather a product of collective meaning making, which I have talked to you by giving you so many examples. This perspective emphasizes the importance of understanding the social context and the ways in which individuals construct and negotiate meaning, right? So if you look at this slide, I would like to argue that qualitative research places a strong emphasis on interpretation, recognizing that data are not self-evident, but rather require interpretation and analysis. That is how me and you become very, very important. How do we look at the data? How we deconstruct it? This approach acknowledges that researchers bring their own biases, assumptions, and experience to the research process, which inevitably shape their interpretation. Now, to avoid this is where the role of reflexivity becomes very important, even philosophically and even methodologically. Reflexivity is a critical component of the qualitative research, involving the researcher awareness of their own positionality and how it influences the research process. By your own positionality, it means who is funding your project. When I was working with GFTM Round 7, my project was funded by Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, when I'm studying this police reform movement, my project have been funded by an NGO which works with the police force. So I understand my positionality very clearly. I understand how I can be influenced and why I should not be influenced. Now, these are very difficult questions. Many times, if you're not ready to be influenced, you lose out on the research project. Because whenever you get a research project in the private domain, they would like to come to you with a certain mindset that they would like to see it in a report. But we can't talk about this publicly, right? Reflexivity requires researchers to engage in ongoing self-reflection, acknowledging their own biases and assumptions, and taking steps to mitigate their impact. Okay, so what is the significance of the context? So, whatever research you are doing, wherever you are in this country or out of this country, always look around. What is the context? So, qualitative research emphasizes the importance of context, recognizing that social phenomena are shaped by their historical, cultural, and social settings. That is why, for me and my students, review of literature is one of the most crucial aspects of the research that you do. I hope there is a full talk on review of literature, because I think that is the essence of doing good research, right? This approach seeks to understand the particularities of a given context rather than seeking to generalize or abstract findings, right? Then we come to, characteristics of a interpretation. But I would not be discussing this, but I would be, generally would like all of you to think about few questions that you would like to ask me, because I think another 10 minutes we have, and I had a 2 very long day doing this job mela, which just got over now. And I have to now again sit down and do some, data crunching, right? But before I ask for questions, I have prepared a very, very, a short kind of for this particular talk, which is not there in slide. I didn't get. So, how do we look at the context? So if I do a qualitative study on partition victims of India and Pakistan, how would we look at the whole thing? So, I would just argue that just as we are understanding racism in a social context, we would understand partition in a geographical, political, social, economical, and religious context. So the partition of India, in generally speaking, right, in India in 1947 led to mass displacement, violence, and trauma. So now we have to decide, are we looking at mass displacement, violence, and trauma, or we are looking at 3? Or is there an intersectionality that would come into the play to explore the lived experiences, memories, and long-term psychological and social impact on the survivors and their families? So if this is my introduction to this research, let me quickly think of few of the research objectives. So what can be the research objective? And there's a whole philosophy behind this kind of study. It is about 2 nations in making, Pakistan and India. There's a certain historicity to these kind of research. So I would first of all try and document the personal narrative of partition survivor. Secondly, if you will ask me, I would like to understand the psychological and emotional impact of displacement and violence, because there's a lot of philosophy in this. To analyze how memories of participation shape the identities and intergenerational trauma. Now, for me, this becomes very, very important, because there are a lot of children who are from partition family, and they happen to land in my classroom. And I teach them at master levels, and I teach them at undergraduate level. And I see that how when they learn social sciences, they can internalize, and they are not so angry after doing social sciences. They try and understand that this was a particular moment in history when human understanding failed its own imagination, right? So the next thing which I tell them to explore is the coping mechanism and the resilience among survivors. I tell them, go and look at your grandma. Go and look at your great grandmother who would have lost a young son or a daughter-in-law, or maybe your father's brother or your father's sister or your mother's brother. How would it have been? How have they coped up? How do they find meaning in life? So then certain research questions that would come to my mind would be, how do survivors recall and narrate their experience of of partition? A few of the families that I used to visit in and around, 2-3 years before the COVID, when I was working in this area, sorry. I'm about to conclude. Just give me another 5 minutes. Is it fine with you guys? Is it fine, the organizer? Another 5 minutes would
Yes,
you
sir.
please?
Yes, sir. This is fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
So,
Please, sir.
when the first time I go and used to talk to a grandmother or a great grandmother, believe me, I just used to sit. They used to utter few words and then cry for next 5 or 7 minutes. They were not only answering my research question, they were revisiting their trauma. And they used, after 2 or 3 visits, when they would have cried all over again, then they would start talking about how they took those who were still alive, how they managed to make fulkari dupattas or some other small achar or papar, or they got a small piece of land by government of India. How did they have big havelis in Lahore and the other Gujranwala area? How their father, grandfather were coming from very, very rich background. They would often talk about their dead husband and how he came with the whole barat. Now tell me, when you are listening to this narrative, you are understanding their life, you are also taking so many of these people very, very close to the constructing of the nation of our history. And in this, when I used to go to this, I used to always carry 2 books with myself. One was Larry Collins and Dominic LaPierre. Freedom Struggle, that whole book. Please read that. Okay. And there's another writer, very controversial at times, but this is one of the favorite books which I've read written by him. It's called Midnight's Children, where a child is born on 15th August, 14th August, 12 o'clock, by the name of Salim Sinai, and Salman Rushdie, using magical realism, does the characterizes the nation as well as the hero, and it goes on. So, just like Salim Sinai, I used to meet so many families where children were just born in the year of 1947, among so much of suffering, so much of uprootedness. I really used to ask them this simple question: कि तुसी मुंडे नु कैसे बड़ा किया, कुड़ी नु how did you bring up your young child? The child who was a suckling child, the child who was colic, the child who was feverish, the child who did not know what has happened to the family, the child full of emotion, the child full of trauma, the child who had not screamed, the child who did not know what happened to her mother and how her grandmother escaped with her, the child who did not understand the meaning of that train journey, where the whole bogies after bogie, their relative, when they came to the station to seek, they were full of dead bodies. How do you quantify, gentlemen and ladies, these kind of questions when you do social science research? So, for me, this was very interesting because pain and politics go together all over the world. There are so many political parties in Punjab who made all these generation a political agenda as if they would be delivered justice. I do not know how many of them got justice, or even if they got justice, did justice heal them? So how have survivors adapted to new socio-political realities post-partition? This will be my next question. How do the second and third generation perceive and inherit partition memories? You know, I as a sociologist, I'm amazed now how the fourth and the fifth generation, perhaps they would only understand it through the faded sepia tone photographs and few of the museums where people have given their house belongings or memorabilia of partition of the pain associated with them, right? So what will be my research approach? So for this, I've taken a phenomenological qualitative approach will be used to explore the personal experiences of partition survivor and their descendant. What will be my sampling strategy? I would target population, participation survivors, which I did actually, 75 and above, their children and grandchildren, because 1947, this was when I was doing this was between 2017 and 19, before I got the ICMR project. So all those who were 75, I used to go to the family and talk to them. Sampling method, obviously, purposive and snowball sampling to identify key participants in India and Pakistan. I could not go to Pakistan, but few people, they made me help conduct an interview telephonically. Sample size, not much. 30 to 15 participants, 15 to 25 from each country for in-depth interview. Data collection method, in-depth semi-structured interview conducted in person or via virtual means for receptivity, you know, through Zoom call, like you guys are listening to me today. Open-ended questions, focusing on personal experiences, emotions, and coping. Obviously, recorded with consent and transcribed. Now, what I would be doing majorly is collecting oral histories, collection of life stories, emphasizing migration, loss, and survival. Remember, when you deal with subject whom with you are exploring death or grief or crisis, very often they forget what and why are you there. They have this whole world inside, which they start reliving. Believe me, as a researcher, you can't be very cruel and tell them all these crying, all these stories. It doesn't help my objective, research objective. You have to listen them and then slowly negotiate that emotional landmine and bring them to your research questions. This is what helps you if you understand the philosophy behind your research. Many a times they would cry and just bring out their old album and they would say to see Dekho, please look into this album. And with every photograph, they would have memory. So you use of photograph, letters, personal artifacts, wherever available, focus group discussion conducted separately with survivors or with their young generation, discussion on intergenerational transmission of trauma and identity formation. Some youth are very angry about this. Dekh lenge, kar denge, jaan se maar denge. Then you understand that, you know, that feeling of us and we, despite being such a tragic context that exists then, that exists now, because of certain social context, because of certain religious mooding, or because of certain political undertone, it still is not there. Humanity perhaps needs to come knocking on all these homes once again. So you visit this historical site, refugee colonies, survivor communities to understand the lived environment. Remember, many of them have left them, but ask them, क्या आप हमारे साथ एक दिन वहां चलेंगे? Sit on a rickshaw, sit on a horse cart, if that is available, and take them there. Ask them if you can record, and they will tell you how they cross border. और इस गली में हमें एक छोटा सा कैंप मिला था जहां रहते थे. You know, you would understand that is, you know, life is. You will be also start counting your blessings in life. Believe me. So once when you have done this, then you have to do thematic analysis, identifying patterns and recurring themes in the narratives of all those survivors, all those stories. Once you are doing narrative analysis, examine the storytelling style, emotional tone, and memory constructions. Remember, many a times, many of these 75 plus were also suffering from initial symptoms of dementia or maybe approaching Alzheimer. So you also have to cross-check the fact which they would say or which they would miss out on one visit, where on another visit they would overemphasize. Then you would also talk to their family members, what they have heard when they were kids. So, you know, all these comes at being objectivity, being redefined in qualitative method. So intergeneration analysis, comparing perspective of survivors and descendants, then ethical consideration, whenever you are talking of pain, death, suffering, love, any human emotion, you should take informed concept this way or that way. The participant will be informed about the study purpose and their right to withdraw at any time. Okay, so confidentiality, anonymization of identity, and sensitive details. Secondly, you should also, when you're working in these traumatic areas, you should also care about the emotional well-being of your subjects. So when I do interview with those who are on recovery, they have left drug or they were in a drug cartel. Those are very, very difficult area to work, or with at times with rape victim, young boys and girls. Very, very traumatic for me even as a person. So it becomes very, very difficult to tell those small children what we are doing. So I would conclude by saying that qualitative methods are essential for understanding contemporary concerns globally. These methods offer a nuanced and contextualized approach to social science research, prioritizing depth over breadth and seeking to understand the intricacies of social phenomena. Believe me, there can be no social phenomena without a cultural, social, religious, economics, or a political underpinning, philosophical underpinning behind it. Whether it is the recent Trump tariff or what is happening in our neighborhood in Bangladesh, or the way we deal within our family, all this come within the ambit of social research. Best wishes to all the researcher. It is already 8:35. It has been a long day. If there are questions, I'm also putting up my email ID. My email ID is pushkar.phd@gmail.com. I might not be able to answer all your questions today, but believe me, if you will write to me with specific question, me and my research team are going to send you detailed answer. Organizers, I would like to come to an end of my talk, and that is all for today. Thank you for being patient and waiting for me and listening to me. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure talking
you,
to
sir.
all of you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir,
Thank
it's
you.
a
Thank
very,
you. Thank
very
you.
wonderful, wonderful presentation, sir. And
Oh,
how
thank
the
you.
energy you are, having, sir. The whole day you are in a job mela, and after that continuously non-stopping 2 hours. The energy you started when you start the program and till end, you are having awesome energy, sir. And that's
Yeah, thank you
my
for that. You know, where does that
yes,
energy come from? It comes from the field.
yes,
It comes from
yes.
continuously engaging with the
From
research. So even when I'm doing a
yes,
work in a job mela, the sociologist within me doesn't die. I look at the behavior of the student. I look at the behavior of the company. I look at the behavior of the company who's offering 15 lakh per annum. I also look at the behavior of the company offering 4 lakh. There's a huge difference between the way they walk, the way they carry their
great, sir.
file,
Great.
the way they arrive. So, you know, social research is everywhere. You look around and you see social research. Very
Sure, sir.
recently,
Sure,
I
sir.
went to Kashmir to do a research on Vazma. Vazma is the
Mm.
dish which they prepare in their marriage. And I could understand how during those painful, traumatic times, eating is central to happiness in Kashmir. Okay, yeah, please.
Yeah,
Any
exactly.
questions? If you
Thank
don't
you,
want
sir.
to
Thank
ask,
you, sir.
let me-
Yeah.
Yes, dear
Yeah.
participants, very
Participants,
good evening. So thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful presentation. And in
Thank
fact,
you. Thank you.
we had a feeling that sitting in the IIT classroom. So you made me the session very lively, sir. Now the floor is open for discussion. Dear participants, those who want to ask your doubts, you can ask.
Yeah,
Good
please.
evening, sir. Sir, could you please share your email ID one more time? I couldn't get it at
Yeah,
that point.
my email ID is, see, I did my PhD on faith and market culture, a socio-cultural study of Pushkar. So that during a research scholar, like many of you would have been once upon a time, I made my email ID pushkar.phd. Pushkar is a temple town in Rajasthan, Pushkar, pushkar.phd@gmail.com. Please write me questions with context.
Yes,
I would
definitely,
love to
sir.
answer them. I
Definitely,
might
do that.
take time, but your question I will also share with my PhD students. There's 5 or 6 students who are enrolled under me afresh and they are at the moment doing that internal reform committee. We all will sit together and have a discussion on the questions that, and then one of my students will type the answer and he will send it to you.
Yes, sir,
It
that
would be a
would
pleasure
that would be very
answering all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Like, I'm
Thank you so
actually-
much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, sir. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you very much.
Good night, sir. Thank you very much,
Good night.
sir.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
so much,
Thanks a lot, sir.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night to each and everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.